My face currently feels like I've been run through by Tom Stewart.
Puts it to the top of the square. Oh, beautiful little fist in there by Dale. Crucial centimetre moments.
He definitely has a bit of the Belcho spirit, as I have a bit of the Belcho spirit.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the podcast that was probably out of bounds when that handball was received from all angles. There's no disputing it.
I think we were also touched on the line.
Might have been touched on the line, but I do think that mark was taken inside the field of play. You're listening to The Back Pocket. I am, as always, Jack, and I am also with, as always, Alistair.
As always.
As always. It's late this week because stuff's happened and life is hard.
Look, we're in our late 20s. We're depressed and sad. We have to do this every single week.
The Tillies lost the semi-final. I got beaten up at cricket. We paid a bunch of state players, which seemed a bit unfair.
I exist, so...
Yeah, I got a cat. It was a week of footy. Another one that was actually pretty interesting for finals results. Bulldogs losing really put a dent in their record.
Yeah, that's probably the big loss out of the week.
I think there's 2 points I can take from that game. One is that I think Bontempelli should keep playing football after half-time. I think that would really help them this season. And I also think that Tim English shouldn't be taking kick-outs. They're my two...
I have to say, it was the strangest moment of the week.
My two big takeaways from that game. There's other games I have takeaways from, that Grundy isn't a full forward, that you should maybe send someone near Josh Dacos.
Maybe Essendon really are a bottom five side.
Yeah, Richmond also are where they belong, I think. Mm-hmm. People were talking about the finals, but they just played some bad teams for a little bit there. It was a weird weekend, but...
I think English taking the kick out
is the weirdest part, yeah. Oh, the Jeremy Cameron handball was right up there.
Is that the most... That's got to triple his bounces. He took 3 bounces in the
and one of them was as he stepped outside the square. Yeah. And he went across and across. And Bailey Dale, who probably should have taken the kick out, was just running away from him. We'll get into the votes. Who was your one this week?
My one is to... No one was going to give him votes. I guarantee it. Oleg Markov.
Okay.
I'm giving a vote.
Yep.
One, mostly just because of his moustache.
It's fantastic.
I think we were really robbed of the opportunity for Oleg Markov to play on Jordan Galucci. I think that would have been really good.
I liked Galucci. He was like a first-round pick as well. He just disappeared.
Yeah, Adelaide had a real period where they just picked and burned. And a couple of father sons too.
Yeah.
Anyway, he had 16 disposals, 5 marks, 7 intercepts, 16 pressure acts, a couple of rebound 50s, but it was mostly his enthusiasm. I feel like Collingwood has lacked it the last couple of weeks.
Yep.
Everyone getting around each other. Oleg Markov
we talked about it early in the game when he did that spoil, and he had to get the boys around him for the defensive acts.
Even he'll see a spoil from 30 metres away. He will charge to get around, all smiles, high fives. I think that's important, even more so than his stats. And they won, and he played well, so 1 vote.
That is totally fair. I did a U this week, and I don't have my stats on me, so we're going to have to do this off the cuff. But my...
you said you were ready on Monday.
I was, and then I clearly wasn't, because Monday was when I turned into a potato. My one was to Nick Blakey.
Okay.
Who was really good defensively for Sydney, especially when that game was close.
My 3 votes is to Nicholas Blakey.
Well, do you have stats for Nicholas Blakey?
I do have his stats.
Yeah.
You're lucky this week. He had 24 disposals, 8 marks. He went at 92%, 12 intercepts, 11 pressure acts, 7 1-percenters. Don't know how many were spoils because I don't go on the website. 414 metres gained and 10 rebound 50s, which is all around a pretty good game.
Really good game. We watched that game while exhausted, drinking Powerade and eating Red Rooster. And
I think that's what we did.
Yeah, he was good while I watched. That was my impression I got from that game. I was really disappointed Gold Coast couldn't hang on there for, Geelong's sake, but it makes the finals more interesting, really, that Sydney won. It really sets up an opportunity to have a grand final rematch first week of finals if Sydney can continue up some kind of form. So that was did you say that was your 3?
That was my 3.
All right, so who was your 2?
My 2 goes to Jake Lever.
Okay. We have really different votes this week, so that's good. Jake Lever, all right, go for it.
Jake Lever alongside Stephen May. You could have probably thrown a pin at either of them as to who to pick. I thought they did a really good job on Curnow, who's in really good form, and he kicked 2 goals, I think, in the end, and he set up 1 or 2 others, but they locked down. They were under siege, especially in that first quarter, and for the start of the last, they were getting pantsed, and they just held up. And that's Melbourne's biggest strength. And I can go through the stats. He had 12 intercepts, 16 disposals, only a few marks, 7 rebound 50s, but they basically set up the wall and stopped. And that was super important. It's very finals footy. Props.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I did think his game was really good, and I'll come back to that later. But my 2 this week was to Harris Andrews, who was really good again.
I do have Harris Andrews' stats if you want them.
Yeah? How many votes? Did you give him any votes?
I gave him 5 votes.
You gave him 5?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
I'm well out of order this week because of you.
All right, well, I've got some stats in front of me, so you can pick up anything I've missed.
Sure.
11 intercepts, 8 contested, 100%, he kicked a goal, 100% goal kicking accuracy, that was nice. 81% disposal efficiency, his 1%ers was insane. I think he had 17 spoils and one other 1%er.
Yeah, 18 total.
5 rebound 50s. He's really good, and Adelaide challenged them.
Yeah.
And Adelaide's forward line is potent, so to play the game he did was...
You were watching the Geelong game at the time? Or you were waiting for the Geelong game? I can't remember. But I was watching that game off to the side on my phone, and those last 5 to 10 minutes were crazy. And I think he was just really good. I couldn't go past giving him 5 this week.
Fair enough.
And he's I know you've said it before, he's definitely living up to his potential because he was lauded and all-Australian and I didn't quite get it, but now I do. He's worked on his deficiencies, something
top spot
fierce.
in the votes this week. I'm not sure yet.
I think he will.
He might already be top. No,
No, he is...
He's already top by 1,
How many did you give him, 2?
6 tens, yeah, so 7 votes.
I think he's one ahead now.
Interesting. Okay, so that's getting very close
Huge.
to the end of the year. Well, I guess we've got to roll through.
Yeah, you got to do your 3.
My 3 was to Nathan Murphy.
It's just honourable mention for me. He's
Honourable mention.
almost my 1.
He was, especially after Moore went down, and Jeremy Cameron was obviously having a field day.
I didn't give him votes because Jeremy Cameron went nuts.
But the things he did weren't marking opportunities. Like
Yeah, he did one from out of bounds.
Yeah, dude. But I thought Nathan Murphy was fantastic. He really generalled that back line after Moore went off. He showed that they can still do it without Moore. I think it was a really important game. I was obviously laughing at anyone who thought that they were underdogs just because Dacos was out, especially considering Geelong had way more important outs. But when Moore went down, and the fact that they managed to recover from that in-game says that they are a genuine contender. Geelong played, I think, the best game they've played this year against Collingwood on the weekend, outside of some really stark errors, and it was not enough. That their backline really came back together, and their midfield was fantastic. Dacos and Degoe were brilliant, and Tom Mitchell, lo and behold, when he's allowed back in as an inside mid, is really good at that.
Josh Dacos went nuts.
Insane. I don't know why they didn't at any point send someone to him. 40 disposals, I think it's a career best for him.
38.
1 Dacos out, doesn't matter. But yeah, Murphy for me, again, it's one of those games where I don't think the stats matter that much, but I think he had 9 spoils as well.
Totally fair. I could have easily given him votes anywhere in this top 5. So
he was very, very good. So,
I mean, it's not really his fault. Jeremy Cameron decided to rock up and just nuts.
Actually kick on target for a change.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my 3. So your 4 is your last one you've got to give.
Yeah, it goes to my man Nicholas Newman.
All right, that's my 5.
Okay, all right. He is making a late charge. If he gets full votes next week, he might win.
He's playing insane football at the moment in games that Carlton just need to win. He's just rolling. I guess he thrives under pressure.
I think I saw it a little bit earlier than everyone in the year because obviously I'm a Carlton man.
Yeah, well, we gave him 10, I think, against Toby Green earlier in the year.
Yes, that one. And then from there, even during losses, he was generaling in a crazy way I haven't seen from him before. And it makes me really sad that we lost a year of him to ACL because it could have been important last year. But yeah, he's good, isn't he?
He's very good.
He's a little shit.
He's a sneaky little prick in the best possible way. I can understand that Collingwood fans and Richmond fans would hate him. He's exactly the kind of player that because he plays for a proper rival club and he's a cheeky little prick.
I dislike how mouthy he is to umpires. It makes my heart jump into my
mouth. Yeah, no, he's playing well. Have you got his stats there?
33 disposals, 9 marks. He only went at 70%, which is unders for him. 11 intercepts, 9 pressure acts, 521 metres gained, 3 rebound 50s and 3 1%ers to go with it. And I don't think any of the forwards that he played against really fired a shot. So
he's so good at just manning space. When there's multiple small forwards inside 50, he just fills gaps where these really dangerous players get into and makes it hard for them. So he doesn't have as many one-on-ones as players might, but his pressure acts are always so high and his intercepts are so high because he just gets in the right spot before he needs to be.
And he's proved earlier in the year he can one-on-one like he did to Green. Do you think it's time that someone tags him? A lot of this year, people have been putting time into Sard, but it might not be worth it anymore.
I've thought about it a few times recently because he's just been getting off the hook. Obviously, Ross Lyon just brought up that he's going to go with Stewart and he went with Sicily, but then when they played Carlton, he didn't go with Newman. So,
Is it because he's smaller?
It's harder to tag a small defender, obviously, because he doesn't take the marks, but it might be. He's playing great football. He's in All-Australian contention at the moment. They don't pick small defenders, but
he won't get
He is the best small defender in the AFL by a stretch currently. My 5, also from that game, so we've had quite a lot of players from that game. Mine was to Stephen May. Every time I looked up when Carlton were going, I looked up, obviously I watched that whole game, but it felt like every time Carlton went inside 50, he was there in some capacity, whether he was causing it to be a contested ball, whether he was actually spoiling it, whether he was intercept marking it. He's playing great footy again. He had I feel like he had a little lull there mid-season. A lot of players did, but he's leading from the front. Melbourne are in the hot seat to even get a top 2 finish if they keep winning games. They lost that one, which
so funny because they lose the next 2, they're out of the top 4. So could be out of the top 4.
Could be. And Bulldogs didn't help their chances with their loss on the weekend. Could have ruined their chances at finals. Now,
maybe
if they beat West Coast and then lose to Geelong, they finish 9th.
It's so weird. We're in a world where Geelong can win both their games and still miss the finals.
It's insane that they obviously they won 2 important games before this weekend, didn't move them into the 8, lose to Collingwood, drop to 13th.
It's brutal.
And then if they win the next 2, they could finish as high as 6th.
High as 6th.
Low as 9th.
They win their next 2, they could still finish 9th.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think it was I saw a bunch of models said it was like a 96% chance that if they win the next 2, they finish. It's like I feel like 4% is too much for winning the last 2 as close as it is. But
I think if they were to miss, Sydney have to win both their games, and one of Essendon and St Kilda need to win both their games.
Yeah.
But
Stephen May,
too much.
I'll quickly jump through his numbers that had in there for me.
Stats, huh?
He had 11 spoils, 6 intercept possessions, went at 93%, had no score involvements, no goal assists, no inside 50s. It was just all brick wall stuff, and I loved it. And they really curtailed Curnow as much as they really could have, I think, in that game. Which is, funnily enough, why it might be handy for them to have Mackay back.
It would be weird if they decided to just trade him because Curnow kicked 3 goals in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, when they started playing good teams, he kicked less goals. It's weird. It's insane. Anyway,
it was when he got double teamed.
Yeah, when teams had 2 tall defenders inside 50 and Mackay wasn't there, they sent them both to him.
Well, he's back this week, we'll see. There's the benefit of doing this on a Thursday. We know the teams, so we can talk about
it's
them.
interesting. Hawkins and Mackay both back. Shapes up those 2 forward lines very differently. The Geelong St Kilda game, it's going to be very strange because I think in the arcs, Geelong are the better of the teams, but St Kilda have a better midfield overall and will win it in the ruck.
I genuinely think this is the week where Geelong rock up with a better midfield, even with
still no Guthrie
out. I think that St Kilda midfield is way too one-paced.
I agree. I think, obviously, Dangerfield playing the way he is, his last few weeks have been insane. He's playing traditional beast mode Dangerfield stuff. And we were seeing better football from Bruin, and Atkins is finally playing the way we hoped he would earlier in the year.
Like he did last year.
It is interesting, but I think St Kilda would still, on paper, have the better midfield.
I think Marshall gives them the advantage midfield-wise.
Yes, for sure.
Because right
going
now,
up against Neil especially.
That's not going to do much.
And Neil was good last week against Darcy Cameron, and that's a big step up from Darcy Cameron to Rowan Marshall.
And we've seen how Rowan Marshall.
And that was Neil
going,
taking less than a quarter of the ruck knocks.
If you've got a vice, if you've got someone who's a safe captain on Sunday, pick Marshall as your vice on Saturday.
Absolutely. So that's votes run through.
Easy. Well, see you next week.
It feels like that.
I feel like I do that every week.
We've got. We know the games are huge the next 2 weeks. It starts, I think, straight away this weekend, Friday night. Let me just double check that.
Brisbane Collingwood.
It does. It starts straight away, which is at Marvel for some weird reason.
I feel like it should be at the MCG, but I like that it's at Marvel.
I think both teams would prefer it was at the MCG because Brisbane would prefer to get a game in at the MCG
especially against finals. The top side.
Collingwood would prefer it was at the MCG because Brisbane can't win at the MCG. But it's not It would sell out for sure.
I think the interesting thing is I think it being at Marvel works in Brisbane's favour in multiple ways.
I agree.
One, I think that they're not playing at the MCG, so the hoodoo is not there. But two, Marvel's faster.
Mm-hmm. And Brisbane are, especially with Gunston out,
Yes,
fast.
they are going to pressure, I think, and it's going to be very interesting to see if Collingwood hold up to that at Marvel.
Collingwood's outs are again big.
I think, and I could be wrong, don't quote me, I think something like Brisbane have won 5 of their last 6 at Marvel.
Yeah, they're really good at Marvel.
And Collingwood are like 50-50 there.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting because I think that a lot of people have said it as well during the weeks. This isn't a revolutionary statement.
didn't even do our honourable mentions.
Oh, who were yours?
I'll just quickly say it was Mitchell Hinge, Alex Witherden, Jaden Laverty. That's all you get.
Sweet. It was not a revolutionary statement, but had Geelong had Hawkins, they probably win that game due to Moore going down and not having the 2 keys.
Yeah.
Whereas this week they come up against a team that genuinely do have 2 key forwards in Hipwood and Danaher. And if you can't play on both of them, one of them likely will kick goals. I think that when they're manned, they're not elite, but I think that it will be hard to cover both of them.
Well, they haven't brought in a key, have they?
Well, they brought in Frampton already last week.
True.
So they had the extra tall already that was for ruck cover. So they've got Frampton and Murphy, but Frampton's going to play on one of Hipwood or Danaher, and I think they both outmark him in a one-on-one. So it's going to be very defensive setup based for Collingwood on the weekend, which obviously football is. And then we've got the pointless game to start Saturday, which is Richmond North. It feels rude to say pointless, but Richmond basically tanked against the Bulldogs, and now
farewell game for Cochin and
Zeeble
and Rewalt.
And Rewalt.
Doubt he'll play the game after.
Big game for them, but not a big game on the football calendar. Gold Coast Carlton, only a big game for Carlton's finals hopes. Gold Coast have written themselves off now.
They're
they can still make
causing
it.
threats, which is annoying.
GWS Essendon is a huge game. That's a final, effectively, for them.
Yep.
Whichever team loses that can't make it. St Kilda Geelong is also effectively a final. Whichever team loses that, St Kilda might make it, but probably won't. Geelong lose it, won't make it. Adelaide Sydney, just about a final.
100% a
Whichever
final.
team loses that
That's
won't make
actually,
finals.
I'm picking that as my game of the round.
Bulldogs have to beat West Coast by a lot, basically. That's a pretty on-paper one. Melbourne Hawthorn, not a final, but Hawthorn have been threatening good teams consistently.
It would be very interesting. And what are they going to do about Sicily? They don't have a forward to take him. Melksham's not a tagger. He is annoying, but he's not a tagger. I don't know if he can do that.
It is a tough one.
Especially when their forward line's so undemanded.
Obviously Hawthorn are looking really good. They've obviously knocked off some very good teams in the last few weeks, beating both Collingwood and Bulldogs, pretty much back-to-back.
Actually
back to back. And Sicily obviously playing insane football. They had to send tags to him to slow him down.
If Melbourne don't have someone from there, they're in trouble.
Yes,
but I don't know if
they've got
Hawthorn's inside 50s will be good
Kosicki and
enough.
Lewis fit at the same time, which looks really good for them up forward. Their midfield's good. I think next year, all of those players with an extra year into them will be genuinely good. I think
I'm glad Warple's playing well again. Because
me too.
I don't know.
All he needed was a Newcomb and a Day in there with him, I think, to help relieve the load, and it's working. It's good, but yeah, another exciting week for finals footy.
Did we
so
do
many
all
teams.
the games?
That's all. Well, Port Freo, which again, Freo seem to only play well against good teams, so maybe they live for that one.
And we're not going to talk about Western Bulldogs, West Coast Eagles.
No, I said they need to win by a lot. That's basically it.
I'm picking Sydney Adelaide in my game of the round. I know Adelaide are insane at home, but Sydney
have picked up again.
And
They're back.
This is it. If they lose this, they're done.
I'd go the cowards pick for game of the round. I'm going Brisbane.
Collingwood.
I've picked Brisbane, which is apparently the upset.
They're
but I don't think
favourites on my app.
Are they now?
Yeah, $1.84.
They weren't when I picked them,
$1.96.
but it makes sense that they would be now, especially with Dugowie out. I think is a big one that wasn't there when I made that my pick earlier in the week. And Keaton Coleman back is a good in for Brisbane. So I can't think. There was a bunch of dumb stuff said during the week about football, but I've forgotten it all. So
let me think.
Eddie Maguire said Perth is a one-city town instead of a one-team town. He also called Adam Simpson
Adam Goods. He had flashbacks,
and he called him a.
I didn't say it.
No. What do you say on the? You picked up the paper earlier.
Oh, he said he was going to get boned.
Boned, yeah. He said Adam Goods is going to get boned, which just is a confusing statement in 2023 because his name's Adam Simpson.
We touched on it earlier. People think Harry Mackay should be sold for a packet of chips.
That's weird.
How many teams willingly trade out a Coleman medalist?
None.
None.
GWS made Geelong give them everything they had to get Jeremy Cameron across the line.
If you're trading a Coleman medalist who is 26 years old, That's triple pick.
Crazy.
That's triple pick territory.
Yeah, and there's people, oh, he's goal kicking. Yeah, but he's still getting the ball, right? Like, if you get a forward who's marking the ball that much, it's in there. And that's so important. Teams would take him in a heartbeat, and Carlton would demand a lot for him. He's not. I don't think
it's not happening.
A few free agents signed on again the last week. Parrish is still available.
It's
I
too
think
late.
Radicalia's value went down based on that game. he was good for parts, but there was a couple of moments where one he ducked under that chest mark and it cost a goal immediately, and there was the moment where Scarlett-Silvagni just did not want to give it to him. He almost got caught holding the ball to turn around the other way and handball it to Bose instead. Which shows the faith that the backline has in him as a disposer of the football, which isn't a good sign if you're trying to trade him in.
Even when I've seen them playing well with him in the side, he's still passing it off to others to kick out.
To kick it down the line.
And I know that key defenders don't have to have huge metres gained, but you should be relying on them to kick down the line.
Yes. And that was the thing that Scarlett-Silvagni fixed in his game in Geelong last year. That he stopped trying to bite off kicks, that he just kicked down the line. So that's interesting. Obviously, more out. It will be interesting to see how they go. They've given Bruz Maynard the captaincy for the week, which is fascinating to me.
I don't understand how I didn't give it to Josh Dacos.
I saw someone make a joke about how he was happy to take the captaincy because Lachie Neale is smaller and lighter than him, so he'll happy to do the centre bounce.
Does he get embarrassed? Do you reckon he would absolutely name search himself on Twitter?
Yeah, he would. Does he have the self-awareness?
No, I don't know.
Because it's 2 weeks in a row now where he's gone at the little bloke and then crapped himself when a bigger bloke's gone to Cripps and Dangerfield 2 weeks in a row.
Not 2 weeks in a row, but
2 and 3 weeks. He's been shit scared of and gone for Motlop and Stengel, which a bad pattern. But
yeah, true. Actually,
like they're both 176 or so centimeters tall. Stengel even smaller. Stengel is a tiny footballer. It's just such weird.
Jack is claiming that Bruz Maynard is a racist.
Fake tough guy stuff. I'm not claiming that. It's just a bad look on paper, I think. But he does it to anyone who's small. He did it to Hollands as well. He's a coward of a footballer, basically, and it's a weird person to make your captain. Because does he step up if it actually gets tough?
That's what I want to talk about. Bulldogs shouldn't have even been close to winning that game because fucking. What's his name? Riley West running in and tackling.
Oh my goodness.
Sicily.
Okay, so I've been informed during the week that technically that is the correct decision.
No way.
And my belief is that means the rule is wrong.
It should be 50 metres.
He was not back to the 9. Means he was in the protected zone and ran him down from starting in the protected zone.
He started running whilst he was still in the square.
Yes, the umpire's decision is that Sicily chose to play on, but you shouldn't think there's someone behind you because the umpires are supposed to clear everyone.
Yeah.
It's a shocking decision, and if it had cost that game, there would have been rightful uproar. What do you want to call it?
You can do outroar if you want.
It was it was one of the worst things I've ever seen.
Oh, I was so shocked. So this is the same game where English took the kick out.
Yeah, and it's funny. I was listening to
someone probably could have run him down from
another footy podcast earlier, and I actually really enjoyed that when they talked about the bad umpiring in the Geelong Collingwood game. They said that the mark, which from a different angle could have been a mark, so it's hard to say that that's out. The handball, which shouldn't have been a handball, but then also the centre bounce, which was the What I really enjoyed was because there's been a lot of Collingwood fans doing this whole drawing a line to the centre circle. I mean, look, it was in there. The podcast I was listening to, they said, I watch every game of football every weekend. And he said, 19 out of 20 times you see that specific bounce, it will get called back because it is a bad bounce. And it went straight to De Goey and it went straight inside the forward line and it was a goal within 30 seconds and then Collingwood kicked the next 5.
Umpires just don't care sometimes.
It was a game-changing moment. And obviously the other one with Jeremy Cameron was a game-changing moment too. That really brought them back in the game. But moments like that shouldn't be putting games as close as they were.
I think the worst is when they bounce it and it goes all the way to one side. The ruckman runs to go get it, and then the other one gets charged with a block because they had to move backwards.
Put his hand up to stop someone running into him.
Yeah.
It's not a block. You're just trying to not get kicked in the face.
They shouldn't have to do that because the ball shouldn't be flying back over his head anyway.
There was one in the...
I'm saying it now. I've said it before. No more bounce.
No more bounce. We've early in the season
Jason
we were on
Dunstall,
this.
Get out of here.
Footy with Broden Kelly, you have to change the intro. Nope, don't bounce that pill. Throw that pill up. Because I do waffle games every weekend. Do you know how much smoother it goes when they're just just throw it up every time?
Easy.
Insanely better.
It's almost performative at this point to keep it. Get rid of it. It is.
And
just the first one.
Of the game.
Yeah. I'm not even saying of the quarter. Just the first one.
The first one of the game. Get someone who is good at it. to do it. You could have a special umpire,
He
a
could be there
specific
for- he
umpire
could just be on the
who
field
just
for
goes
that
out
one.
and he bounces it and he goes off and interchanges with someone else as soon as there's a stoppage. It's a
God,
it's
that'd be a good job.
becoming a mess. The bounce, it is. We've seen several times this year. It's been a mess. There was a moment in this is just talking about ruck rules and umpires not knowing them.
I hate
either.
ruck rules.
There was one. It's ruckcraft. There was one on the weekend. It was in the Richmond St Kilda game, and it was Nankervis and Marshall. There was a free kick paid for. They love using things like misconduct or like whatever, and someone clarified that it was because Marshall raised his knee, and he raised his knee into Nankervis's raised knee, and it's like, so you raise your knee first, you get the free kick.
Yeah.
Their knees clashed. They clearly both had them raised. Ruck work is so weird.
It's not like Nankervis is like 50 centimetres taller.
Yeah, ruck frees are the worst thing in football.
I love it when
they
the
drive
umpire,
me in.
that one, I don't know what game it was, but he pointed the wrong way from a ruck free and everyone was shocked. No one knew what was happening. It's just a joke.
It's always funny when there's a whistle and both ruckmen stand there like, is it mine?
Yeah.
They have no idea. Because they do the same thing every time, and sometimes the umpire goes, it's a block.
Yeah.
For some reason.
I don't think I could do it. I think I would be livid.
Did you enjoy, and I'm sure you did, the montage of the Charlie Curnow free kicks posted back to back to back so that people just couldn't complain about them because the vast majority of them were there.
I love the one that they complain about the most is the headlock, where he's actually got him under the chin with the elbow. Like,
and the ones that weren't as bad as the others were ones that... he took marks off a bunch of them, but also ones that other forwards get frees for too. Like they should get them more often.
I'll say straight up, other forwards don't get as many free kicks, and they probably should.
They should. That's the thing. You're getting angry at the wrong thing, right? People get mad about him getting the frees. No, you should be mad that the other forwards don't when defenders are literally hanging off of them. And
it's different to say, and in the same team, 2 years ago, Harry Mackay would get frees for like throwing his head back.
Yes, and that's very different.
And thankfully, that's dropped out of his game. That don't pay. People actually scragging someone, pay. I have no problem with it if it's fucking Taylor Walker, if it's Tom Hawkins, pay it if it's there. But if it's diving, which you see paid more, it's so annoying.
I've been seeing what I find really funny is that because it's the comparison to who he's going past for the record for goal assists, is that the media's talking about how he's going after Ackermanis' record. They're not comparing him to Ackermanis, but then the public are saying, Ackermanis kicked this amount of goals that year. It's like, he also won a Brownlow medal that year. Like, we're not arguing Brian Myers should win a Brownlow medal. We're saying that he should be the All-Australian half-forward flank. Because he sets up the most goals in the AFL.
But I also think Luke Bruce should be on the other side, and that's not going to happen.
An insane season.
Those two are not going to get... They'll get maybe in the squad.
Speaking of...
actually, you know what? I could see Myers missing the squad somehow.
Hawthorn forwards. Did you see the gunshot that was Chad Wingard going down?
Oh, yeah.
Getting sniped as Achilles, I think, in the end. I don't know if that's career-ending. It could be.
Look, I wouldn't be surprised
his
if he called it.
last few weeks has been good enough to go on. He's been very patchy this year, but he showed that he can still play well enough, and then went down, unfortunately. But I wouldn't be shocked if he decided that's enough. I think Hawthorn would push to keep him there because he is a great person to be able to teach the younger forwards how to be a good forward.
Maybe it's just early. A year early for him.
Yeah. It was a bad one. He was in pain. He was gone.
Yeah, I don't know. Who else did an injury that we all thought was going to retire? Oh, no. Sorry, didn't do an injury. He just signed on for another year. Rory Sloane.
Yeah. That was a weird one. And Adelaide acting like it was like they did the Drake meme. Like it was like they were flexing on people for not retiring.
I only saw people upset about it.
It's going to be a Scott Thompson like 2010 year where he just is killing it in the sandful.
Or taking spots away from people.
Or taking spots. And I hope that's not the case. I hope that either he plays well enough to be in the team,
hey, maybe they'll do a Dyson Heppel, put him at half-back, and he'll get 20 disposals 5 weeks in a row, and everyone will...
Maybe he will, but does Adelaide backline need someone to go in there? I feel like they're doing well enough at the moment without him.
I feel like he was replaced by Keys last year.
Yes.
He didn't need to be in the side.
And Crouch in form as well is a huge one, right? If they've got Crouch, Laird, and Keys in the midfield, they don't need Sloane in there.
Dawson.
They don't need Sloane in that midfield.
I don't see a place for him.
Me neither.
Personally.
Their best 22 shouldn't have him in it on paper. So,
No.
which is not to say that Rory Sloane's had a fantastic career.
He's great.
He was a very good captain when he was in charge of that football club. And then he's not as good anymore, and that's when he should retire. I respect the players that know it. Zeebel's a great example of a player who's had a good enough year this year and has known that it is time.
I don't know, I was listening to the North List manager, and he more than implied that a lot of the boys were told, no more. Except for Goldstein, who's apparently getting one more year, maybe even two.
So strange, because they've got so much ruck depth.
They've got like 8 rucks.
Right now. I think
To be
Zeebel's
fair, he's the only one that can
a
stay
good time,
fit.
and Cochin and Rewald also. Like a really good time
I
to
still
know.
think Rewald should have gone one more, but
I agree.
he's
He
made
could have
the
got to
decision.
350 games. I think there's another
gone
milestone
up
of goals.
2 or 3. He would have overtaken Richo in goals.
Yeah, and it's so funny, and we are on the unpopular side of this one in the argument of which Rewalt has had a better career.
Jack.
Do I think Nick Rewalt was a naturally more talented footballer?
Yes.
Yes. Jack Rewalt has had a by far better career.
He's kicked more goals,
He has
won more
kicked
premierships.
more goals, he's won more premierships, he's now played more games, but he has more goals per game.
Mm-hmm.
He has only 2 less All-Australians. He's got 3 flags.
He's got Coleman medal.
So, 3 Coleman medals, 3 flags. That's a better career. There's
there's
no debating it.
Sure, Nick Rewalt might have taken 20 marks in a game, but they've
Yeah.
both done that courageous mark.
Yeah,
I think
but-
Nick's is a little better, but
It is. And we didn't see Nick Rewalt complain as much as Jack
no.
Rewalt.
But it's... And I like...
Jack Rewalt was still a talismanic forward in a crap team.
Whoa, what a word.
For a while. Like, he was what made Richmond exciting to watch when they were struggling, and then became a very team-oriented full forward in a great team. His career has been brilliant, and it's overshadowed by the fact people think he's a wanker, which, sure, he is, but he's had a fantastic AFL career.
I did laugh. Obviously, I love seeing the footage of him with fucking the Killers. It's very
Yes,
good.
it's brilliant.
But I laughed when he said he tried to take a screamer on the weekend and realised it was probably time to retire because he only got his knee halfway up their back.
That's good.
And yeah, it's like the Corns and Fife story.
Yeah.
Everyone has that moment on field where they go,
That's it. He was one of those players who had great footy cards every year. Like, there was always a great photo of Jack Rewalt taking a mark that you could put in that frame, like above people's heads. So he'll be missed, I think, as a footballer. He was entertaining.
I think he'll be missed at Richmond.
He was entertaining for the whole league, whether it was watching him just be wildly demonstrative towards opposition players or umpires, or him crawling up the race in that footage, which is just fantastic. Yep, having a cry in the stairwell, doing Mr. Brightside. His highlights reel of non-playing are almost as good as some people's playing.
No, I
reels.
didn't remember it, but I really enjoyed the footage of him jumping fences to avoid the media,
Yes,
grabbing a Mikey
over
card, catching the train.
It's good.
It's funny.
That's all I've got this week.
I don't think I've got much else.
Big Footy's moved from is Collingwood having a dynasty to is Carlton having a dynasty. Very funny.
Hey,
Good stuff, Big
it's
Footy.
a dynasty of potentially maybe one final series. Let's go.
Woo!
I'll take it.
I love that site's ability to get ahead of themselves.
I won't go into it too much. I despise the Carlton posters on the main board. They are so voracious and they post all the time and they have almost nothing to back themselves up on.
Mm-hmm.
I very much avoid them or will just post, please stop.
The worst thing about Big Footy is that anytime there's a thread that is not about any specific team or player, it will get overridden by Geelong and Richmond fans
Oh, that too. Collingwood fans been bad too.
piss fight with each other for no reason. I remember people getting really upset. There was a thread about which dynasty, quote unquote, was better out of Brisbane, Hawthorn, Geelong, and Richmond. And I gave
Brisbane.
Well, I said Brisbane not only because they were dominant and they won 3 in a row, but that they were a non-Victorian team playing on the MCG against Victorian teams in all of those. And then for the same reason, I had Geelong
I
second.
don't think they ever won it from first.
For the same reason, I had Geelong second, because they played the second and third flags of those 3 against teams that were by far and away the best team in those home and away seasons, who were also Victorian sides. Whereas Hawthorn played 3 non-Victorian sides in 3 flags, and Richmond played 2 out of their 3 non-Victorian sides, and then the Asterisk Cup, which everyone was calling it until Richmond won it, and they were like, oh no, it's the real one. Which it was always the real one, if anything harder to win it that year. But that was and then they went apeshit. They did not like that at all. which was very funny because it was just a thread about people's opinions on which order it went in.
Yeah, it was just very similar. There was a thread. It was like, oh, who was the best out of these? And it had like Judd and Voss and a bunch of other players. And anyone that put Judd at 6 was getting fucking roasted, even though he's probably 5th or 6th on that list. So it's embarrassing. Stop being losers.
Voss's ability to step up in huge games was elite, but it's recency bias. People forget how good Voss was because it was 20 years ago now. Like Ackermanis is a player that I think his freak talent is completely forgotten
because he's a wanker.
Yeah, banned from more golf courses than he's now won flags. But like
he's banned from more than 3, more than 3.
So. He was incredible to watch play football.
You should say banned from more golf courses than he did assists in his best season.
Banned from more golf courses than his handicap is. Anyway, we've definitely got off track now. We'll be back next week before the last round of the year with probably still no idea what's going to happen because there's still so many games in that round that are huge. We've got Geelong play the Bulldogs.
We could see some teams eliminated. We could see one of Essendon and GWS out.
And Adelaide and Sydney.
And
if Geelong lose, they're out. But
so there's another one.
If Geelong win, GWS Carlton, Geelong Bulldogs are huge games. It's great. It's good to have genuinely exciting footy at the tail end of the year.
I'd like to be locked in, so win this week, please, Carlton.
I would like to still have the season alive because Geelong's AFLW team doesn't even come to Perth this year, so I can't watch them play. But that's been fun. We'll see you next week.
Bye.